for the last tournament of the PGA season. It's the Awesemo.com late night show. Ben Raza, Jason Roslin, the same crew as always. Here, we're both ready to go. I just had some delicious New York pizza, and now I'm going to power through this show. We got the Tour Championship on deck, and we got our sponsors, FantasyDraft. So right off the top, talk a little about them.
Yeah. Hopefully they can hook us up with some New York pizza down here, because that's pretty amazing. Anyways, rake-free daily fantasy is finally here, and we know that obviously that there's the two big players, but I'm glad to see FantasyDraft really making a nice effort. And what you get with this is you can play your favorite contest rake-free, where 100% of the entry fees are going to the contest winners. This is for a limited time at FantasyDraft, offering a free 7-day trial to try out this rake-free promotion. So go to fantasydraft.com, use promo code Awesemo to claim your free 7-day trial. So pretty cool. We've talked about it a bit on this show. We've used it a couple of times ourselves. So kind of fun, different salary structure over there. So certainly, obviously, when the contests are bigger next year, we'll definitely take advantage of that.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Plenty, golf gets right back. And we're going to talk about the swing season in a bit and some of our plans going forward. But we do have 30 golfers here. We have this in the match play, the most unique tournaments of the year, especially with the new format. Everybody has a hot take, but we haven't heard yours yet. Just right off the bat, before we even dive into anything, do you like the FedEx Cup, changing it to where the winner of the Tour Championship is going to win the FedEx Cup? And do you like this from a DFS perspective?
Yeah, I'm a jump on board fully bandwagon with pretty much everything they did. When they did it last year, I was fully on board right away. I think one of the scenarios that came up on silly little Twitter was something like this, not to the extent, but yeah, from a golfer standpoint, it's what they call a net tournament, right? Where everyone starts off at a certain amount of handicap strokes or whatever you want to call it. And it levels the playing field, right? And this is leveling the playing field from the regular season, in my opinion. Now, I understand that Justin Thomas won the last playoff event, and that got him up to this first spot. I think maybe we need to do a little bit shuffling of the points and the point allocation. I'm giving this from a fantasy guy perspective. I'm certainly not, doling out the money on the PGA Tour or anything like that. But I think that you should probably not have Justin Thomas win his first tournament of the year and all of a sudden be first heading into the Tour Championship. Maybe that's the only problem I have with it. Whereas, Brooks Koepka wins a major, comes in second place in two other ones. I just think that Koepka likely should have probably still been first. That's all a point allocation thing. Regardless of that, I'm fully on board with what they did here.
We are 1,000% in agreement. I love what they did, and the one thing that I think is kind of ridiculous is that you could, and I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure, at least in recent years, you could basically, even if you won every event during the regular season, those FedEx Cup events, the points are so much that you can get, you may hold the lead, but it's not. You don't control your own destiny and things of that nature.
You have no clue what's going on. You have, from a player's perspective, you have absolutely no clue what you need, or this is completely transparent. We get one winner. We don't get Tiger Woods and Justin Rose smiling. Like, that was the most awkward photo of all time. It was Tiger's moment, and it should have been Tiger's moment. So I love it. I totally love it.
It's just, I like it from the perspective of, and I'm just throwing out a random person, but take Usti. Say he goes ballistic.
Yep.
Last year, not only would he would be worrying about what is JT doing just as much as he would be worrying about how he's playing. Here, he needs to just win the tournament, just like everyone else. You win the tournament, everything takes care of itself. And I like that. That's how it should be for the last event of the year. There's no if this guy can come in fifth, he's actually going to win. And depending on who wins, it's very confusing that way. So I like it. It makes a DraftKings week that would have been one of the worst of the year with the hero style.
Yep.
Very interesting. Obviously, that's what we're here to talk about. I spent a lot of time building lineups today, and boy, was it interesting with this new pricing and certainly a new format.
Yeah, for sure. And, it definitely, when you put Justin Thomas all the way up at 15.5 and he's getting that 30 points right off the bat, a lot of people are going to be drawn to that. So we'll certainly get into that a little bit. And I have Fantasy Cruncher pulled up. So for those of you that don't want to spend all the time hand building, we'll go through a little bit of what I'm going to do using Fantasy Cruncher on the other side to help those people that are using that software. Or if you haven't seen it, it'll be a good time to kind of test it out. So yeah, definitely in agreement with everything. They love it. Speaking about Ustays, and it would be kind of ironic. The only time he's ever played here was a withdraw, of course, because that's the way he does it. It is sponsored by FedEx, as we know. It's the FedEx Cup. And Usti is sponsored by UPS. And he was actually grandfathered in. They have this new clause. I don't know if you saw this. And it was sent to me on Twitter by Josh Culpin. He's a really good industry guy. And it said that anybody that's sponsored by a competitor, which they mean UPS, obviously, cannot actually qualify or wear their logos during the event. However, Oosthuizen and Lee Westwood were the only two grandfathered in. So what I'm saying is, imagine Sunday afternoon if Louis Oosthuizen goes ballistic and they got to plaster UPS all over this. I mean, just ironic.
That would be good for a lot of reasons. I have some Usti. Those, I'll just start, and we're not going to get too deep into players. I've gotten a ton of questions, and I totally get it. But these are 30 very good golfers. If you build a ton of lineups, it's very reasonable to have all 30 exposures. You're obviously going to want to take positions, but at the same time, it's more about I think we're both in agreement. It's more about lineup construction this week and being cognizant of what you're doing than who you're actually picking. You want to make some teams that really mesh well in a situation like this.
Yeah, definitely. And the key is, so when we look at a golf course like East Lake that statistically is relatively difficult, it's a par 70, so we don't have that many par 5s, so we're not going to get that many eagles. We're not going to get that many hole outs. It just doesn't happen. So what I mean by that is the scoring holes are the same for pretty much the entire field. That's normally the case, but sometimes, obviously, when there are 4 par 5s, the longer hitters do get an advantage. So I think that positional points will end up playing a factor, and now it's determining, okay, where can my guys get up to? What's the most realistic score that the guy that I'm trying to roster, what can he shoot on his best day to get me up to that point? And I think that's where a lot of the roster construction has come in.
I'm with you. And it's so fascinating. We have a situation with Justin Thomas, across the industry where his price is at a place we've never seen it. It's crazy. You see 15,500 on DraftKings, 21,900 on FantasyDraft. And that was the elephant in the room, certainly earlier in the week, where it was like, okay, do we all go to JT? He's got the 2-shot lead. And then it feels like the narrative has really changed and ownership is starting to reflect that. What do you think about that situation now that it looks like JT? I'm not going to say he's going to be not popular, but he's not going to be massively popular, it looks like.
Yeah, so I think they first came out at maybe 40%, and you're absolutely right. It looks like he's trending now. And again, if you can see my screen and you have Fantasy Cruncher, one of the great things is you can load the ownership projections right into it. Ownership Pro, as you can see, it kind of comes up there. So just a great tool and a great feature. Looks like right at 20%. So for a 30-man field, relatively speaking, that's like, we'll call it like, normally you'd see like a 12%. So really kind of low ownership. He does start with the 2-stroke lead. I can see what people are starting to change the narrative. Interestingly enough, it looks like the top 3 guys on this board are all coming in 20%. So we can start with that. Does that interest you? Why do you think nobody wants to play these guys? It can't be when you get guys like Kolkrak and Howell at $5,000. Can't necessarily be a salary thing altogether, can it?
I'm not sure exactly what it is. I do think, when you start clicking, JT's in a spot by himself because that price, I understand why you don't want to get there. I was building, and boy, he makes it pretty dicey pretty fast, especially if you try to pair him up with somebody else up there. Having said that, though, Brooks and Cantlay, they're the next 2. I have no problem starting with them. I get the appeal of going Rahm Rory. I have plenty of teams that do that and maybe go a little more balanced where you're not forced into the 5K range. But this is just such a different situation. So I really think that you can really alter. It's so counterintuitive, but you're just really able to do things that you wouldn't normally do because we have legitimate golfers in a price range that doesn't exist in the 5K range. So I found myself basically saying, okay, we have how low can I go in terms of starting point where realistically this could be the optimal? Obviously, somebody up top is going to be part of that. I think Rom and Rory is about as low as I would go in terms of my first man.
Yeah, I think I agree there. It's you look at obviously when you go last year and obviously this is about birdies. DraftKings points is about birdies. We know that, right? The average came in at about 15 birdies. The spread or range was 19 to 10, so 19 to 9. But both the guys at 9 threw out an eagle, so it was really 10. Maybe even 11, really the number. So the average came out to like 15 and a half. So that's where you go out and see, okay, is Patrick Reed playing his best going to make 15 birdies? Maybe, so that's where I kind of started, was like, okay, the guy that's in front of me, I go and look at, his birdie or better average. I go look at where he is right now in strokes gained approach. And can I see him making 15 birdies? And that's my start. And if I can, they could start my lineup. However, I see a lot of people wanting to play Dustin Johnson, Adam Scott because of that price at 86 and 8,500. I don't think they can give us enough positional points for them to pay off that salary. I would rather just pay up and pay down.
I have no problem attacking some of the mid-range plays. DJ is a tough sell just because he's really not playing well right now. Even off the tee has been not what we're up to seeing. His irons were atrocious last week. They can make a move quickly. It's very bunched. This is not after this mindset is usually applicable on a Sunday. This is a showdown with 72 holes, not 18. So people have plenty of time to make a move, and placement points. One of the things that if you haven't checked it out, you really need to. You get 3 points if you come in 30th. You get 6 points if you come in 11th, and that's beating 2/3 of the field. That's one extra birdie. So it's really about how can you score until you really get in that upper echelon. Obviously, the winner's 30 points. That's a totally different animal. You're going to need that. But I'm really more apt to kind of agree where you have guys, Bryson, Louis, Sungjae Im, they're so cheap, and they can make up ground in a hurry.
Yeah, they sure can. And that's the thing. If those guys, and we can go back to talking about Justin Thomas, and now the fact that he's really only coming in at 20%, which I don't think either you or I are scared at, especially in a 30-man field. That doesn't frighten. That's going to be the average. Obviously, if there's 30 players and 20% times 30 is 600%, and that's a lineup. So that's going to be pretty much average. If you put in Justin Thomas, you get 6,900 left over to spend it, even at 15.5. If you just throw in two of the guys you just mentioned, so say Bryson and Sungjae, you're already back up to 7,700 average per person remaining. So I think it's really going to be, can you match up JT with two of the bottom guys below 6,000 that score the best, right? Because we know they're not going to win the tournament, very unlikely, but score the best, and then can you then put the rest of the pieces together? Can you add in another guy like a Rom or a Cantlay? It's going to be tough, or McIlroy. But if you can find that combination, that's probably the one to win. Of course, if Justin Thomas holds on to that first place spot, which he's going to need to clear up that off the tee game. There's no doubt that was a struggle last week, and a couple of times found himself way off the fairway, where it was better that he was so far off the fairway rather than 5 yards, because he was in the trampled down areas and such. So I have a feeling he's going to find a water hazard if he does that this week.
It's true. I sat down. I watched a lot of golf on Sunday. I had some lobster ravioli. Sat down, watched his full round, and he wasn't as sharp as you would think, to be honest. He held on more than really got it. And one of my first thoughts was, if he brings that to Eastlake, this 2 shots is going to dissipate pretty quickly. So more often than not, I find myself saying, I made enough teams this week where I have shares of basically everybody. And I have some JT, but my priority was not him. It was working down to those next batch of guys, mixing and matching 2 of them, and then saying, okay, there's not that many permutations as I work down a million 2v2s and 3v3s, and you just kind of hope to connect that single lotto ticket.
That's the thing. When you're talking 30 guys, you are going to end up having, lot of 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s. That's why, I'd urge if you're a cash player, it's really not the week for cash. You're going to have a lot of 1v1s even in cash. And if you want to play 1v1s, just head to the matchup market, and you don't have to pay the rake, the 10% rake. Just, go and, look at the matchup market. Anyways, so one of the other things I wanted to bring up, which I think is really important, is for the most part, let's say I start with Rory and Rahm, which is a relative balanced build. I don't care about salary remaining. I think that's really important to bring up this week. If I make a team of 6 and it's got 3,000 left over and I like it, I don't care. I'm putting it in because that's going to be one of the only ways to differentiate with this small field.
Definitely. If you have, I think it's pretty safe to say if you have a lineup that zeroes out, you're going to be duped no matter what it is. I don't think it would be possible to have a unique lineup that zeros this week. I left thousands on the table on some teams and certainly hundreds and in the $1,000 range on plenty of teams. It really doesn't matter as much this week. But the guy we actually haven't mentioned, we're doing pretty good. We've gone a long way. Justin Rose, I think, is going to be the most popular play on the entire slate. His price, especially on DraftKings, is, I don't want to say it's ridiculous, but it's really cheap at 6,900. What are you doing with him? Can you get over, say, a 40% Justin Rose?
Well, let me just clear up one more thought before I go on.
Sure.
Talking about the salary really quick. You guys do see, everybody sees my Fantasy Crunchers thing on here. I can tell looking in the background. So if you do want to leave salary, which is a great way to differentiate if you're using that 150 lineups, how I did that was really simple. If you're new to Fantasy Crunchers or if you haven't seen it before, click Advanced Options in the top left of your screen. You go to Max under Team Salary, and let's say you want to do 49.2. Sorry, I got to get my numlock going. There we go. Okay, that's your maximum. Great. It automatically loads in. You'll go now, and let's just say we're going to build 10 lineups, and we're going to build my projections. And you'll see every single lineup now, maximum is going to be 49.2. That's the max right there. So it says I need to log in, which is not a big deal. Anyways, so a great way to differentiate that way. So now speaking on Justin Rose, I think everyone's really attracted to the 6,900 price. It makes sense. However, the statistical numbers, they just don't look good. They're rather lackluster. I'm not getting there that much. I guess my goal is to go and look at Justin Rose to win the golf tournament because some books are offering bets on winning the tournament without the handicap.
Yep.
I think he sits at 15-1 right there or somewhere in that range, maybe a little higher at 20-1. I'm actually looking at that bet and fading him on DraftKings because I think I can go lower and get just as many points out of some of these guys. Sung Jae Im has been a points machine. He's been throwing up eagles like crazy. Could that continue? Probably not. But when it's $1,000 cheaper and likely a lot less ownership, I'm finding myself a lot of the time going to that.
I have a lot of Rose, but the problem was just when someone is this popular, to really get leverage, you have to, I'm not going to say lock button them, but you're going to have to take a massive, massive stand. And there's just too many other players as we work down, guys like Kisner, who's a fraction of the ownership. And I've already mentioned Bryson, Usti. I know there's certainly issues with these type of players, but again, fractions of the ownership. I went to them. I left money on the table in certain circumstances. My one thing with Rose is this. He is the number one player in my mind that you have to look at the team before you place him in. If you have a team with Rahm and a couple other really chalky guys, even if Rose fits perfectly, it's, in my opinion, it's a mistake. If you have a team that's a little off the wall up top and it does something different, you say, you know what, I'm going to plug in the best player available down here. I'm going to use Rose in a team like this. It still leaves money on the table. I think that works well. But you certainly don't want to be starting Rahm, Rose, not in terms of salary, but just in terms of ownership. That's a recipe for a disaster.
Yeah, I totally agree. And a great way to do something like that is what I like to do. I showed you, and we can use Fantasy Crunchers here. I build these are my base 10 lineups, right? And what they allow you to do is there's this calculate, say, 5 more teams. So it allows you to just keep the same build that you're doing. It can show you the percentages on the left-hand side over here. So what I'll go up and do is I'll make sure that Justin Rose is not in these 5. I'll do this a lot, and I'll go back down. Again, you got to go back down and press the calculate 5 more teams here. So now I'm going to get all of these lineups under 49.2, and none of them are going to have Justin Rose. So again, ways that I can make sure that parts of my build, all of my builds, some of my build doesn't have Justin Rose. Also, another way to do that is going to advanced options and going to groups. And the great things about groups is what we can do is we can type in Justin Rose. We can type in John Rahm. And we can type in Rory McIlroy. And why don't we just say Dustin Johnson, right? Because he's going to be really chalky. What you can do is you can say, at most, I want to have 2 of these guys in that lineup.
Yep.
Now we're going to save that group. This group, it's already saved. You don't need to do anything. And again, now we're going to go make lineups. And the most you're going to have is 2 of those chalky guys. Just a great way to differentiate. If you are max entering and don't want to run yourself out like maybe Ben did a little bit here before the show. He was telling me he did all his hand build lineups. If you don't want to do that, I'm probably going to do a little mixture because I like the hand build. I like the hand build on FanDuel. I think it's important. They're spotting 50K over there, sponsored by, I think, Gosling's Rum or something. But still, 50K for first place. Pretty good for FanDuel. We haven't seen that since a major.
It's such a weird situation, too, because I want to not even clarify, but just add on to what we were talking about. There are certain builds where you actually don't have that many permutations. Like if you take a certain stand up top, so even Rahm and Rose, as I just mentioned, I don't love that. I was forced into that in certain spots, but I still stand by you want to mix it up. And also context selection. If we're talking about the big $5, well, I don't even know if you can be shooting for unique lineups there. You just want to minimize your dupes.
Yeah, exactly.
195,000 people is insane.
What is it, 200K to first again?
Yep.
Yeah, so you hope that, you make a lineup that's 4 and you walk away with 60 or 50. It's actually probably more, right? It's probably like 68 or something like that to split the top 4 prizes. But anyways, again, Ben's right with 190. However, we have seen, like in the showdown football stuff, but there's a lot more. There may not be that many more combinations. It might be something similar.
I mean, I've given up saying every time I'm like, oh my God, over under 100 winners, and then someone randomly wins with one team, single bullet, unique lineup, and it seems like an obvious. That happens in the NBA too, so you never know. But I still think that more often than not, you want to plan to try to really minimize it. And if you chop up first place with 5 people versus 100 people, believe me, you will know the difference.
Yeah, for sure,
no doubt about it. But it's such an odd thing to really talk about because I know we keep hitting this point. You just have a feel that's these guys have been playing a lot of golf. It's the final 30. Do you have any lineups that are approaching just zeroing out, or are you really staying away from that across the board?
Well, no, I think it depends on your build. It depends on contest selection, right?
Okay, fair enough.
Am I here?
Yeah, you're here.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I think it depends on contest selection. So if we're talking about the big $5 again, no, I don't think that you can go out and put together a lineup that, and I'm going to put on, I'm bringing on the how it works, just in case people don't know, but I'm sure everyone knows by this point where everybody starts and how they start. However, I think that, let's say in the $500, I think that you can build a lineup that has no salary left over and not have it be duplicated. The single entry ones, I think you have an opportunity to do that as well. Again, it all comes down to, I would say in a field like this, you want to be below like 110% total ownership. So maximum 2 of those guys that we mentioned before. And I think that's really what I'm going to stick to is 2 of those: Rahm, DJ, Adam Scott, Justin Rose. I may only have 1 of them. I like Rory and Rahm a lot. I think those 2 guys are positioned the best to try and catch Justin Thomas outside of Brooks and Cantlay. I think Brooks and Cantlay, when you put $15 million in front of Brooks Koepka and something that he'll be marketed for quite a while, I think that Brooks Koepka is going to show up to play this week. He's not going to come in last place like he did last year. That's not going to happen this year. I can guarantee you. So if I'm focused on Rahm, Rory, Brooks, Cantlay, and some Thomas, that means I'm going to probably have very little Dustin Johnson and Adam Scott, that kind of range. And I guess I'm okay with that because they're not playing that well. So I'm okay if they go out and beat me this week because they have not been playing well for a couple of weeks, not just 1 week last week. It's been a couple of weeks now, especially on those two guys. I know Adam Scott's been okay. Dustin Johnson's been really bad, though.
He has. Question from chat that kind of touches on this. Does ownership matter as much if I'm leaving a couple thousand off? And I think the answer is clearly yes. It's much more forgiving because there's not that many people that are doing that right off the top. So your chances of being duped are minimized. That's one way you can actually gain leverage with chalkier types. It's just a weird configuration of the chalk. So no, that's certainly a way to do it. You still want to consider it, but absolutely that is viable.
Yeah, for sure. And let me just go pull up a lineup here to kind of build something that somebody's suggesting. And I can kind of go into it. Do we care about ownership? And it's a great question. So let's go ahead which is totally fine. Let's start with Rose. Let's go ahead and go Rahm and Rory, which is our top 3 guys on the board, right? Even if we want to go DJ here, you still have the capacity to throw in like Bryson DeChambeau and Sung J M and leave 2,800 salary. Yeah, that lineup is likely not duplicated, but maybe if people end up using software that would allow them to go there, but probably not. And that lineup looks good. Most weeks that lineup would be way over the 50,000 salary cap. So yeah, I think that's a great question. And certainly if you want to play these chalky guys, if you want to fall in love with Justin Rose, DJ, that's totally fine. I think this is a great way to diversify for sure.
Absolutely. And Chad is, this character in Chad Encore, he's 100% right. This is a week where even a couple thousand off, it doesn't guarantee uniqueness. It normally would. Basically, no one would do that. It doesn't, but your chances are obviously incredibly better, especially in the $5. There's going to be a ton of people who just build like they normally do and zero out. Some of those teams are going to have hundreds, no exaggeration, of duplicates.
Maybe thousands?
Yeah, some of them, the chalky builds that zero are going to be just ungodly. Your equity is just non-existent.
And then there's going to be a few, no doubt in my mind, that look at this, right? What's on my screen now, Ben, is the FedEx Cup starting ranking. And they're going to say, oh, well, if they're starting in first and they're going to get the positional points, then we got to get in. We got to get in Justin Thomas, and they're going to build the 6 guys that'll get them the most starting points. That lineup is probably going to be duplicated 1,000 times, maybe 500. Don't do that. It's not going to finish that way on Sunday.
Nope. And we see that, and we've seen it a lot less. But I remember when 4th round showdown started, how many people built to get the most finishing points right off the bat. And those lineups were duped all the time. And now it's slowly dissipated. I will say, if for some insane reason, even though we just said don't do that, if you do it, you better take your screenshot right at the beginning to save it, because after that, it's going to be all downhill for you. So get that screenshot life right at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm actually going in and seeing if I can build the lineup that would do it. So I would need Cantlay. This is going to be tough, actually.
It's going to be interesting to see how many people start JT Cantlay and then just have like 4 punt type players. I would expect that to be a popular build. I'm not really going there. I'll say it does have more appeal than I thought it would, just because JT may not be as popular, but it's still not exactly what I wanted to do this week.
Yeah, I think that one's tough. I don't think the JT Cantlay answer would get enough. Actually, it might get enough positional points if then you filled it. Oh, no, it can't fill it in anyways. It's actually not a lineup that can do. So it's interesting. I'm sure that lineup, if I had a couple of more minutes, I'd be able to figure out which one starts off with the most finishing points. It's likely people will do that, and it will be duplicated. It's just not going to end that way. It matters none other than DK has to do it because that's what it looks like from the stat people. It's Justin Thomas is in first and Cantley's in second and so on. So just like Sunday Showdown, I mean, there's this. It does not end there. Very
really
small
doesn't.
amount of times does the actual 1 to 10 look the exact same day Sunday starting, day ending Sunday. So.
And they have no raw points. I know that's
Right.
pretty obvious, but I just want to clarify. Like, usually when your guy is 10 under, even though his lead is very tenuous, he has a raw points foundation that got him to 10 under. So that's somewhat, it's always correlated, but it's not a 1v1, but that's neither here nor there. This is just the finishing points. That's it. It's the flimsiest points that you can
not
get.
getting birdie points or nothing like that.
There's no tricks. He hasn't solidified anything. And I, like many other people, can confirm, on a bad Sunday, you'll see when you're finishing points, you can lose them in 5 minutes. You go very, very
very quickly. One double bogey, and you go from a tie for sixth. Tied for sixth all the way down to a tie for 16th. That's a lot of positional points for one water ball.
Yeah, it happens quickly and it happens often. So keep that in mind, that you have to buck the normal trend of thinking like, well, this guy he's 10 under, he's playing great, he's not. It's for a cumulative season award. Justin Thomas has done nothing this week, obviously, to warrant being there. So we'll have to wait and see how he attacks East Lake. 2 shots though is nothing.
It's especially at East Lake. So, okay. I think we've talked a lot about lineup construction. So let's just go for a couple of one-offs that may help people, decipher. So I don't think we need to talk about the top guys. But let's start with Gary Woodland against Adam Scott. 8,200 and 8,000 single entry lineup. Where are you going? We've got both of them. Let's see. We got Gary Woodland starting at -3, and we got Adam Scott starting at -3. So both starting at -3. What are you doing in a one-off situation with these guys?
Interesting one. 2 guys that I found myself having to really look at. You get a little more of a discount on FantasyDraft, $1,500 between the two. I'm actually going to roll the dice and go with Woodland, a guy that breaks through in a major and then really not the strongest finish to the year, but his irons have been okay. He's got to get that driver back in order. He's played in these events, hasn't shown much. I do think ownership is going to dictate that for me. Adam Scott's not someone I'm super high on, to be honest. I would try to pay up for DJ or get Ricky. But I did find myself, I think Woodland will be one of the lower owned guys, especially in that middle range.
Yeah, I'm in on Gary. I'm same boat as you. I think you pretty much nailed it for me. All right, you want to give me a one-off?
Sure. So I'm going to go down just a little bit as we scroll in salary, and I'm going to go a little lower into the 6s. And neither of these guys are going to be super popular, but if you were going to not use Rose, we have Kisner and we have Mark Leishman. Do you have any preference of those two? Are you even interested? I know Leish isn't playing great. Kisner is playing very well. What do you think about them?
Yeah, so interesting that Leishman 21 and 24 couldn't even crack the top 20 both
Not
tries. And Leishman kind of seems like maybe I know he's more of a form golfer, but seems kind of like he could be a course golfer as well. He does struggle off the tee at times, and I think that's what gets him here. So I went to Kisner. Kisner's a hometown guy. He's in really good form right now. So if Leishman's going to beat Kisner this week, fine. I'll say, you know what, I'll deal with it. If I really end up needing that in a really tight spot, and I end up spending a lot of money on the Kisner side, then I believe they are actually matched up head to head on the betting side. I may go and hedge that a little bit on Leishman, but honestly, I like Kisner much better this week.
I've been on Kisner the last couple weeks, and he's just I'm a big fan of his just in general, but he keeps it in the fairway. He hits greens. He makes putts. He's back at, Bermuda. I like it across the board for him. Leish is just an anomaly this year, especially late. I do have some, but very, very tough to predict. We did have a question from Chad, and this is just a guy going a little up. Yeah. He's in an awkward price range because he doesn't have exactly a ton of quote unquote placement points to start. But we saw some nuclear rounds last week. It's Hideki. What do you make of him? Because he's an awkward pairing. You burn up some salary using him, and he can't really go unless you go balanced in terms of jamming a bunch of those type of guys.
And that's the thing where, a lot of people are going to say, wait a minute, DJ is $900 less than Hideki, and they're starting at the exact same position. Why would I do that? I think that's creating a little bit of an ownership bubble for DJ and maybe a little bit of a downside for Hideki. Hideki was great. He should have won the golf tournament.
He really should have in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, what did he lose to JT, by 2 or 3? No, I think by 4. By 4. Still, maybe shouldn't have won, but should have given JT a much better run than losing by 4. Let's put it that way. So I'm interested. Again, I guess I'm not going to lie. I'm going to rely, as I scroll on the screen, I'm going to rely on my lineup building of the 6,100, or call it Kisner, X Leishman. Kisner and below is where I'm going to make the money, because I'm playing a lot of the 4 on the top, 2 on the bottom guys. So Hideki did get in there for me a little bit. Especially on FanDuel too, I should say. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but FanDuel, I think he's 9,700 over there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, 97 there, 14,300 on FantasyDraft, 23 on Yahoo, which they're out of control there. That's a whole separate show. I'm with you, Decky. We know it's been a pretty rough year for him, but he showed flashes. Part of that, truth be told, he gained 5 strokes putting in 1 round. That'll help. Yeah, sure. But if you can keep it in play off the tee, that's the thing with Eastlake. It's really demanding off the tee. You can't be hitting it out. You're spraying. And that's why I worry about Patrick Reed a little, who's a guy, he's up there. He's ahead of Rahm and Rory. And if you're looking for the lowest owned of the big names, he's going to be your guy. But he doesn't like Eastlake. And you can kind of see why he's not the best driver of the ball.
All right, so let's say you build your Rahm, your Rory, you've got them in there, and let's say you've put in your 3 other guys, whoever they are. I won't say them out loud, just for purposes of this, what we're doing here. And let's say you are pretty sold on your other 5, and you need somebody 6,100 and below. 1 guy, 1 lineup, your best lineup, and I think we can end, I think, the Tour Championship note on this, maybe, unless you want to give a hot take after that, and then we'll talk about a couple other things.
No, I think that's good because it's fitting. Perfect way to end a season, end everything. It would be Usti for me. So pending he doesn't withdraw again. Ust is my man. Striking those irons, great. Let's do it, buddy.
All right, I'm gonna stick with Heartburn City. And that's Sung J M, man. He's given me so much heartburn this year, but he's just put up so many points for me that I can't, he's probably the reason that I didn't go broke last week. I think I finished in the top 20 in the 800 because of him. Yeah, I'm going to have to roll with him as my one-off guy there.
Fair enough. Yeah, I have plenty of him. It's just.
Oh, yeah, let's go with the winner, by the way, too. Yeah, let's go with the winner. I think in this format, we're talking about the actual guy that's going to get the 15 million check on Sunday night.
It's Rory.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So if you look at the 4 rounds last year, if he puts in 68, 67, 69, which he did last year, which got him to 600, 700, something like that. If he does that, I think he has the lead by that point, which means Justin Thomas basically shoots over par. Because Rory's he's 5 back, right?
Yeah, Rory's at 5 under.
So if Rory shoots 7 under, Thomas would only be 2 under. I think it's going to be Brooks because of that. I think that Brooks goes out and does the exact same thing that Rory does, and they end up fighting it out, and that 2 shots matters. And I think Brooks clips Rory by yeah, it's tough because then I look at Cantlay too. I got Cantlay, Brooks, and Rory, and then I have Rahm, then I have JT.
Okay, that's rough week for JT.
I just think the off the tee game puts him at 4 under for the week, and I think the other guys beat him. If he shoots 4 under, he gets to 14. That was my projection, and I think Rahm, Rory, Cantlay, and Brooks all get to 15 under or better.
It's going to be really telling, because guys like Rory and Rahm, their goal clearly should be go out tomorrow and just shave a couple strokes. They don't need to get right back in it. Just be hanging around. And I'm sure JT his goal is put a red number up there. That's all he needs to do tomorrow. But it's gonna turn, and if he falls into the middle of the pack and a couple guys overtake him, it's gonna be a big ask for him to claw back. I think his only shot is I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think if JT is going to win, he has to go wire to wire.
If he goes 66-66, which would be 8 under, which puts him at 18, that's going to be really hard to beat at that point. At that point, I would not be betting the field. At this point, I'm still betting the field. I don't know the field number on that. I don't know if you have that offhand.
I don't, but clearly the field is I mean, there's no debating that he's a favorite over probably any individual person, but the field is certainly a favorite over him. But I can't wait to see it. I really can't. It's going to be great, and it's going to cap off a really fun golf year here at Osmo. But as we were saying right at the beginning, first of all, there's golf in like 2 weeks. The swing season, the Greenbrier is in the middle of September. So that's legitimately 2 weeks from now. We have Euro, though, next week, which we're going to do a show, chat. I hope you guys are going to check us out. Me and Jason were talking before. They're going to pump up those tournaments, right? Question mark?
Question mark. We certainly hope so. The only reason why they wouldn't, and I made a ploy at the beginning of the week, which likely will go unheard, to show us some Corn Ferry Tour contests, because we've got the Corn Ferry Tour Championship next week, guaranteed to get Victor Hovland, guaranteed to have actually a pretty good field. I highly doubt it, but if we get those, we'll talk about that. Maybe they do that for us. Again, I doubt it. However, the Omega European Masters, I believe it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Last year, when it was the exact same time, the contests were pretty good. At least 5 digits to first place for the big GPP. So we'll cover it. It's a fun tournament. If to get into your Euro swag and your Euro swing, first off, coverage is better. Second off, you're done with your Sunday by 12 o'clock, or you're done with your golf week by midday on Friday. You don't even have to worry about it. You don't even have to worry if you're going to have an acid reflux dinner on Friday night, because it's done by noon. Actually, it could be done before you even wake up if you play your cards going from the PM to AM wave. Before you even wake up, you could know about your cut sweat. That's what I like.
And it's only 65 guys, so most likely you'll know immediately that that's the beauty of Euro.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be patient, but man, when you get 6 of 6, it really matters. Like 1% 6 of 6 is common over there. And we're going to see that next year. That is something we're going to talk about at length. The new cut rules, talk about crazy sweats. Get ready. 0 of 6s are going to be flying. I'm going to rack up a couple of those. I have a feeling.
They got to put out some achievements for that.
Certainly achievement unlock style, no doubt about it.
So if you're interested in Euro, a small contest this week, but if you did get in, or if you're interested, they have a few more out there. I put out 2 pieces of free content for this week for the Scandinavian Masters, which just means the Swedish Masters. Henrik Stenson and Alex Noren are highlighting the field over there. Matt Fitzpatrick, actually your boy, and I actually like Matty Fitzpatrick too a bit. More. But in any case, I put out 2 free content. I put up a model that's got some strokes gained information in there, some GIR, all that good stuff. And then I put up just a preview, just see what you guys like next week. Ben and I will both have an on slate of content. And then in 2 weeks, we'll have the swing season. So, I mean, we don't really have that much time off. But in that time off, I will give you guys the 50 qualifying candidates from the WED.com tour. And a full breakdown and some statistical information about them. So we'll still have plenty of content, even though we may not have huge contests, 6-figure contests. We will definitely still have contests every single week, all the way up until Thanksgiving, I think it is. So we're not going anywhere.
No doubt. And that web.com preview will be super helpful. And that is something that you're going to want to check out, because these are guys, especially in this swing season, they're going to be factors. I wouldn't be stunned to see someone win. That happens. And just having a leg up on guys like Scotty Scheffler and plenty of other people that I certainly have never heard of. But you will know.
Your boy Cam Champ got all the way to the BMW because he won the Sanderson Farms. So it just goes to show you win one of those in the fall circuit, and you could be set up for a lifetime of
tilting me.
Disappointing people like Ben and I.
So gross. But It really is a good thing. And we do, Chat, just I threw this out there on yesterday's show. You have a couple weeks. Like I said, I hope you'll be here next week. But if there's anything on this show that you would love to see, if there's something that, from an information standpoint that you want for the new year, definitely hit me and Jason up. Let us know. We want the feedback to make the show better for the new year, because golf really, like you said, it rolls around quickly. And we really do enjoy doing it. So it's a good time. I can't wait. It's been a really fun year. I wish Grillo made that cut a couple weeks ago, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, we'd be doing the opening show next year from the Tournament of Champions had Grillo made that cut.
Yeah, I'd be on the beach. Any final thoughts before we bounce on out of here for the Tour Championship?
And enjoy and embrace it, because they are trying to clear up a lot of the confusion of why are there two guys winning this. I think this is great. I think they will make it better as years come. I know there's been a lot of onslaught of like, hey, it's a golf tournament. We want the winner to be the winner. Well, it's going to be the winner. It's just the way they have it set up. So enjoy and embrace. We do it once a year. We get 50 other weeks, plus the Euro Tour. We get 100 other golf tournaments where it's low gross. It's okay that this one's low net. It's not a big deal.
It's true. Last thing, we had a friend of the show too, Ari, asking for a Euro pick. I gotta just say Detry by default, my man. But next week we will have full breakdown on Euro. I can't wait to give into some of those egregious names.
I'll give 60 seconds. It's a 6,900-yard course, and you can go find this in the article. 6,900-yard course that's rather forgiving. Plays a little longer, though, because the fairways are undulating. So with that being said, 3 par 5s on a par 70. So I do like guys off the tee. Arnaus had a hell of a week last week. He's not really great the following week. However, I'll be playing him. Dietrich, you just mentioned for sure. And then there was one other guy that I wanted to bring up. Surrey missed the cut last week, and I'm starting to play players that missed the cut on the number or close to it in the following week because they bounce back, especially these upper echelon players. So I like Julian Surrey again this week.
I can always get down with some Surrey. Good player. Hope to see a lot more of him, but that was fun. We're going to bounce on out. Chat, as always, thanks for stopping in. Golf is really not just purely gambling. You should slide into my head-to-heads. Love to see it in there. But other than that, we're going to get on out of here. We will be back, though, next week with the Euro tournament and swing season right around the corner. Thanks, everyone. Good luck for the Tour Championship, and we will see you back here Wednesday at 9. Take care.